topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Barry G. Fowler, EA, brings you Tax Talk for You right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. As an enrolled agent and a national leader in tax resolution, as well as trucker, bookkeeping, and tax planning with over 30 years of experience, Barry will break down taxes, bookkeeping, tax planning, and tax relief for individuals and businesses just like you. So let's have some Tax Talk for You with your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome. Great Monday morning. Great way to start off the week. Talking taxes here for you. Our hearts and prayers go out to all those that were hit by the last two hurricanes. Many of our clients and families were affected by them. So at any time, just take a few moments and say a prayer every day for the recovery of all those that were affected by these storms. It's everybody's seen the news and everything that's happened out there. Any help that can be given is what they need, especially for the recovery in those areas. Hey, talking taxes. Here today for you, we're going to be talking about IRS Taxpayer Bill of Rights and trucker taxes. So let's just get rolling. I mean, what a better way to start a Monday than to talk about taxes. And we talk taxes for you. Check us out. This will be broadcast on podcast, but all of our shows will be out there, and you can connect with us at taxtalk4u.com. and listen to any of our shows. When we start talking about the IRS and the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, yes, they give you your rights in dealing with the IRS. So, each and every taxpayer, these are fundamentally set for you by Congress. And when you're dealing with the IRS and those rights are really good for you, and they're good for the taxpayer. And, it starts with the right to be informed. And we're going to go through a little bit of each one of these rights so that you're aware of everything that you have available to you as a taxpayer, especially when you owe the IRS money, or even when you're dealing with them on an audit. And you really got to work with these people. So you need to know, where are they coming from? And then how do you enforce these rights as well? So you have the right to be informed. You have a right to quality service. And sometimes that's debatable, but we'll keep going. The right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax. The right to challenge the IRS positions and be heard. The right to appeal an IRS decision in an independent forum, the right to finality, so finalize the tax, the right to privacy, the right to confidentiality, the right to retain representation, although some IRS agents will debate whether you have that right or not, but you do have that right, and the right to a fair and just tax system. That's also debatable whether this system is fair and just, but hey, we're not going to get into the politics of that. But let's go back to the right to be informed. You as a taxpayer have the right to know what they need to do to comply with the tax laws. You're entitled to clear explanation of the laws and IRS procedures in all tax forms, instructions, publications, notices, correspondence, and you have the right to be informed of IRS decisions. about your tax account and receive clear explanations of the outcome. Now, how clear does it really get when you're dealing with the IRS agents? Sometimes they're very vague. Sometimes you don't know. We use a really important tax case we had as something that sometimes isn't always really clear. And you're supposed to have the right to be informed. We took a client through a correspondence audit. Now, sometimes those get really bad because you're not dealing with anybody in particular. You're just sending information in correspondence, and they're supposed to go through this audit. When we were going through this, we got no communication back whatsoever. We just got a final judgment that, hey, our client was going to owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, even though we knew we were right. Now, in dealing with this, we end up having to try to go to appeals, and we ended up taking it to tax court. Now, we're not tax attorneys. We are enrolled agents and CPAs that work on your behalf. And in going into tax court, the client would have to represent themselves, although we could help them. We got them into mediation and went to the mediator and said, hey, this is wrong. We sent them all the information. Now, in this case, we were never really informed why we lost. We were never really informed what was wrong. We were just told this was wrong, and the client had lost. We got into mediation, and we sent them all the same stuff, and the mediator couldn't explain to us, and we didn't really ask very many questions because we won. We were never really informed how we won, but we won, and we got an extra $100,000 back for this client, which was really nice, really sweet. But you're supposed to have this right to be informed. So you really have got to go through and enforce this right. And sometimes it is doing a FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information Act, so that you can gather all the information that the IRS would have to determine whether this is right or wrong. And sometimes you've got to go through and do it. We also use this great example because the next right was the quality of service. Did we get quality service? No, we didn't. It was correspondence. It was sending things in and not getting any information back. Don't think that was quality service. Not everybody will say that the IRS is going to provide you with that quality service, but Congress passed these Bill of Rights, and it says taxpayers, you have the right to receive prompt, courteous, and professional assistance in dealing with the IRS, to be spoken in a way that can be easily understood. Some of these guys don't even understand what they're doing. So sometimes quality of service is very lacking when you're dealing with the IRS. But that being the case, you've got to keep asking the questions. And sometimes when you're dealing with the IRS, you've got to hang up the phone and start all over with another agent, so that you may not be getting the answers that you deserve, and you may not be getting the quality you deserve. We deal with these agents every day, and sometimes we've got to hang up the phone because they don't know what they're doing, and we've got to start again. So quality of service may be lacking, but if you don't feel you're getting the quality of service, you can also ask to speak to a supervisor and talk to them about the inadequate services and get answers from them. If you don't get answers from them, you can also go to Taxpayer Advocate and ask for their assistance to get these resolved as well. To get to Taxpayer Advocate, you're going to actually have to file a Form 911 to get their assistance in dealing with your tax problem as well. Now, we also kind of laugh about the right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax. You as a taxpayer have the right to pay only the amount of tax legally due, but you got to include, interest and penalties. And then you have the right to apply all tax payments properly. So if something gets applied wrong, you can call the IRS and get it moved, and they're supposed to be able to move those taxes. Now, how do you determine the correct amount of tax? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about all the time on Tax Talk for You. So make sure you're turning into our show every Monday at 10 a.m. and to get insight on how to calculate the right amount of tax that you're going to be paying to the IRS. Because, hey, remember, you're not legally responsible to pay the most amount of tax. You're only legally responsible to use every tax deduction there is allowed by law and to pay the minimum amount of tax that you possibly can within the confines of the tax law. So the tax law gives you that wonderful roadmap to find every single tax deduction or tax credit out there to lower the taxes to the minimum amount possible. And so that's what we do, and that's what we talk about is finding these tax deductions, even the little ones that are hidden that you may not know about, that we need to get the information out so that you, the taxpayer, aren't paying too much in taxes. And that's the beautiful part about our tax system, is it gives you that roadmap to find those wonderful deductions. And some of those deductions are hidden deep within the code that, unless you're studying the tax code, you may not know about. So we're going to find that so that we can enforce this rule to pay the right amount of tax and no more than the correct amount of tax you would have due. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to continue talking about Taxpayer Bill of Rights and the right to challenge the IRS's position and to be heard. And we're going to be right back right after this.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by, as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. If you owe the IRS or are going through an IRS audit, don't go at it alone. Call Taxation Solutions Tax Relief at 888-930-1016. We are your solution for IRS debts, audits, back taxes, garnishments, liens, and levies. Whether you're an individual or business, you need a solution and a strong, aggressive tax resolution. Don't let the IRS walk all over you. Stop the IRS now. Call 888-930-1016 or go to taxationsolutions.net now for a free, no obligation consultation. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. Continuing talking about Taxpayer Bill of Rights and the rights that you have within dealing with the IRS. And one of the next rights that we have is the right to appeal or the right to challenge the IRS position and be heard. Every taxpayer, you have the right to raise objections. You have the right to provide additional documentation in response to any formal IRS action or proposed actions, and to expect that the IRS will consider your timely objection and documentation promptly and fairly and receive a response if the IRS doesn't agree with your position. Now, you got to remember, you've got to provide your responses and objections timely, and you've got to provide good documentation. If you don't provide it timely, the IRS is going to move forward with their audit. They're going to move forward with their opinion and not take your documentation into account. And that's the same as if you take it to appeals. The IRS is going to give you deadlines, and you've got to meet those deadlines, and you've got to be timely to be able to have your position heard. Then you have this right to appeal any IRS decision into what they call an independent forum. It is an IRS agent. They still represent IRS. I don't consider this necessarily independent. If it was independent, it would be maybe going to your peers as opposed to going to somebody that works for the IRS. But you as a taxpayer are entitled to a fair and impartial administrative appeal of most IRS decisions and many penalties, and have the right to receive a written response from the Office of Appeals on their decision. You as a taxpayer, have also the right to take it to tax court. And if you lose in tax court, you can also take it to district court as well and continue appealing. Sometimes we tell people, how much is it really worth to you to fight for principle? Maybe the tax isn't a big enough tax that is worth going to that route and that extreme. But definitely, if you lose, you want to go through appeals, because there is no cost to go through appeals. There is cost to go into tax court, and then there is a cost to go to district court as well. So the next right you have is the right to finality. Okay, so you as a taxpayer have the right to know the maximum amount of time you have to challenge the IRS position, and every notice is going to give you that time frame that you have to get this to tax court or to get this into appeals. And then once you're done in tax court, you would have the time frame to get this into district court and the cost that's going to be involved as well. If you're going through the audit, the IRS has to audit each tax year within a particular amount of time to get the tax assessed and then collected. You have the right to know when the IRS actually has finished your audit as well, if you're going through an audit. So there is a time frame everybody's got to face, and the IRS has got to face, and to know that there's going to be a finality to all of these procedures that the IRS is going to go through. The right to privacy. You as a taxpayer have the right to expect that the IRS, when they're doing an inquiry, examination, or enforcement action against you, that they're going to comply with laws. There'll be no more intrusive than necessary. We'll respect all due process rights, including search, seizures, protections, and they're going to provide, where applicable, a collection due process hearing as well, so you can go through collection due process hearing. By the way, if you're ignoring them, they can request information from people that you're working for, worked with, neighbors, family, you name it. So they're going to go that route if you completely ignore them, and especially if they're considering that you may be doing fraud. Right to confidentiality. You have the right to expect any information they provide you as a taxpayer to the IRS is not going to be disclosed unless authorized by you or the law. So they've got to follow the law. You have the right to expect appropriate actions that will be taken against employees, return preparers, and others who wrongfully use or disclose your information. So we as tax preparers can't go out there and disclose information without your permission, even to like your mortgage companies, bankers. Just because they request the information doesn't mean we can give the information. We've got to go to you specifically to get permission to release any information whatsoever to any of these people, even including this information in marketing information that we've got, or using your information even for surveys and quotes and stuff that we're going to go out there and do, that people may ask us for information. We need your permission to do that. Now, I consider one of the biggest rights that you have is the right to representation. See, fighting the IRS is hard for an everyday taxpayer out there, because you don't know the laws, you don't know the ins and outs, you don't know the rules and regulations necessarily that the IRS has got to follow, but we do, as enrolled agents, CPAs, that do representation for you on a normal basis. So the right to retain us is very key. Now, a lot of IRS agents say, no, you don't have this right, or you don't need it. We'll take care of you. That's what we're here to do. They're actually working for the government. They're not working for you, whereas we work for you. So you as a taxpayer have the right to retain an authorized representative of your choice to represent you in dealing with the IRS. You have the right to seek assistance even from a low-income tax clinic like VITA. And if you can't afford representation, if you're a low-income taxpayer. So, you can seek out that representation as well. We represent you. We don't represent the IRS, and we fight against the IRS. So that's the nice part about having an enrolled agent or Taxation Solutions Tax Relief that's going to be on your side to fight against the IRS. Now, remember, Taxation Solutions Tax Relief does provide you with representation. We give you a free consultation. So if you have some tax matters that you need to address, call us. Let us talk a little bit about your tax problem and see what we can do for you in this free consultation. That's what we're going to talk about, is how we're going to help you. So check us out at taxationsolutions.net, and you can get that free consultation right there with us. Now, you also have the right to a fair and just tax system. You as a taxpayer have the right to expect that the tax system is going to consider all facts and circumstances that might affect your underlying liabilities, your ability to pay, ability to provide information timely. Kind of like if you've been in this hurricane in Florida or North Carolina or even Tennessee, they're going to give you more time to file your tax returns, or they're going to give you more time to comply with the request for information if you're dealing with a tax problem. You as a taxpayer have the right to receive assistance from taxpayer advocates. If you file that form 911, taxpayer advocate can actually step in and help you as well. When you're not getting any compliance with the IRS, you're not getting the assistance that you should have with the IRS, taxpayer advocate can help step in, and especially at times when you're got financial difficulty, or if the IRS has not resolved your tax issue properly or timely through the normal channels. We've had to use taxpayer advocate for something like getting a lien lifted of somebody that's really in dire need. Hey, we did have a question come in, and I do appreciate all questions. So if you're listening here on W4CY Radio, you can get the questions into us. But somebody asked about business taxes getting filed when your personal taxes get filed. Personal and business taxes could be different. If you're Schedule C, yes, it's going to file with your 1040 and it'll file at the same time. But if you're a 1065 partnership or S Corp or C Corp, you're going to have a different filing deadline. Those are March 15th. And then again in September instead of October, where your personal taxes get filed in October. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about trucking and trucker taxes. What taxes do you face as a trucker? So, hey, stay tuned and join back with us here right after this.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by, as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for you. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Trucker Tax Tools handles all your bookkeeping and taxes no matter what level trucker you are. Life on the road can be taxing, but that doesn't mean that your wallet or time with your family should suffer. Trucker Tax Tools makes your life run smoothly. Go to truckertaxtools.com for a free guide that will give you the tools to never worry about your taxes again. Call Trucker Tax Tools at 877-966-2477 or go to truckertaxtools.com now and let the experts keep you trucking. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, taxtalkforyou.com. Join with us over there, and you can watch our podcast. Get it out to your friends and family that we can get more information out to people to help them reduce their taxes, or maybe find a better way to deal with the IRS and knowing what, like our first part of this program, talking about your taxpayer bill of rights. And now we're going to talk a little bit about trucker taxes. We get a lot of questions about trucker taxes, what taxes they face. The last part of this, we're going to deal with a lot of questions that are coming in as well. But truckers, owner operators out there, basically self-employed, deal with a lot of different taxes. These taxes are everything from your federal and state income taxes, your self-employment taxes, such as Social Security, your Medicare taxes, your heavy highway tax, your international fuel tax, or as we call it in the industry, IFTA tax. And then finally, depending on the location of your business, you may also need to pay city or county business taxes or city or county income taxes. And you need to talk about this and look at what is in your local area and the local departments of revenue for your local city and county taxes as well. But as owner and operators, the taxes that you get hit with the most, of course, is those federal and state income taxes, depending on what state you live in. If you're in like the great state of Texas and you're not going to have income tax, we just deal with the federal income tax side. But everybody, no matter where you are, if you're an owner or operator out there, you're going to be dealing with self-employment taxes. And self-employment taxes are those taxes, like if you were an employee and working for a company, your employer pays half Social Security and half Medicare. And then you see it come out of your paycheck and you pay the other half of Social Security and Medicare. But when you're self-employed, you pay both halves. So, you're talking about, 15.3% in self-employment taxes as an owner operator. And that gets really expensive out there when you're going out and paying taxes. Those will go up to about 168,000. I think it's moving in 2025 to around 174,000. And so you can see trying to reduce self-employment income becomes very key in reducing taxes for you as an owner operator or being self-employed. So, whether you're self-employed as a trucker or whether you're self-employed as a contractor, a roofer, these taxes hit you across the board the same way. The heavy highway tax. So that is filed on Form 2290. That is filed in July of every year. You've got to register your vehicles with a gross weight over 55,000 pounds or higher. And so you'll need to pay that federal heavy highway tax. This tax is going to operate on a yearly cycle between July and June with rolling deadlines based on when your vehicle's first use is. So the month of first use is what you're going to look at. So you need to go through and file these forms. Like I said, it's 2290. And you want to make sure you get these things filed on a timely basis. I've seen many truckers miss these forms. And they're not really extremely hard forms. They're looking at the first date of service. They're looking at putting your VIN number in. There's many companies out there that'll file these forms for you, very inexpensive. You can go online and find these companies that'll go out there and do it. Or you can go to the IRS.gov, and all you got to do is put in 2290 tax, and you'll be able to find the forms you need to file to get these taxes out there. And like I said, the filing deadlines are usually June or July. It's rolling month out there, depending on when you started using your vehicle. Make sure you've got your employer identification number, make sure you got your VIN number, and then you should be able to go into some of these companies and e-file it electronically online. And they're pretty simple to do and pay the tax as you go. The other trucker taxes that we're going to deal with out there is the IFTA tax. Now, that's the International Fuel Tax Association. It's actually the simplest way to handle fuel taxes is through IFTA. It's a multi-state associated tax authority. Once you get your IFTA license, IFTA will have the jurisdiction and will send you quarterly tax returns that you got to calculate with relevant fuel tax rates. And then you got to pay these quarterly as well. IFTA, going through that association, they're going to look at the mileage in each state and where you've been driving and calculate those taxes there for you to help you pay the right amount of tax. Hey, we got a quick question that did come in. Is the employer identification number, or EIN, the same as the VIN? No. The VIN is the vehicle identification number that is on your truck. It's same like you have on your personal vehicles out there, but semi trucks, they've got their own VIN for each truck. The employer identification number is issued by the IRS by filing Form SS4, and that sets your employer identification number. So if you're using a LLC, it gets its own employer identification number, or if you're using a Inc. or even a company that's doing business as a DBA, you can get your own employer identification number from the federal government. And that's the number you're going to use on the forms. Instead of using your Social Security, it's the number that identifies your business and is just for your business. So you want to get that out there as well. Now, one of the questions we have that came in, and we're going to go through a lot of questions here over the next 20 minutes or so, is estimating taxes. So estimating taxes is very important when you're dealing with the IRS and you're dealing with your business taxes. And estimating those taxes, the IRS will provide you a worksheet on their website. They have a lot of neat information at irs.gov. Does it make it all 100% useful and usable? No, not necessarily, but it's a good starting point for a lot of people if you're looking for do it yourself. If you're looking for assistance, of course, you reach out to us or other tax professionals that are in the trucking industry to get a good sounding board to figure out how to go about these estimated taxes. But when you're doing estimated taxes for the IRS, you're going to do the Form 1040-ES, or you're going to file it and pay your taxes online on a quarterly basis, basically using that ES form, which is just for making estimated tax payments. And a good rule of thumb, we get to ask this all the time, what's the best rule of thumb for how much I'm going to pay in tax? And we tell people that, hey, look, you're going to want to set aside 25 to 35% of your net yearly income projection. So when you're sitting down looking at what's my net income going to be, you want to set aside 25 to 35% of that net income to pay the IRS, and then pay in your estimated taxes. Now, estimated taxes, you're going to want to figure these two different ways. The first way is, what's the minimum I've got to pay in? And that's going to be using your prior year tax return. So when you use your prior year tax return, you're going to calculate it and say, hey, this is how much tax there was. I'm going to divide it by 4. And I'm going to use a simplified method. There's more complicated ways of doing it, but I'm going to try to keep it simple today. And then we're going to divide it by 4. And then we're going to subtract out a quarter of anything that was withheld from 1099, Rs, or paychecks from maybe a spouse. And then that'll be what we're going to pay in quarterly. Or we go back and actually estimate taxes based on actuals. And we're going to do a little bit of both so that we know that we're going to be setting the right amount of money aside and paying the right amount of money to the IRS. And then you're going to go online and pay that through irs.gov, make a payment, and you can go in and pay it there. And we did have a question come in about trucker taxes. Are they the same as other filings for 1099? We're going to cover that right after this break here. So again, let's talk about 1099s and trucker taxes and other people's taxes. We'll be right back.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by, as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Stop spending time doing paperwork. Go to truckertaxtools.com, a solution built specifically for truckers. Truckertaxtools.com makes your life run smoothly. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. Right before that, we were starting to talk a little bit about our trucker taxes, the same as others 1099. So trucker taxes and other people that are getting 1099 income are very similar. But truckers do have a lot of specific tax deductions that are available for them, such as fuel credits, and other credits that are out there that are available for truckers, and certain deductions that are different for them than other people that are out there self-employed. And so you want to make sure, whether you're whatever industry you're self-employed, that you're getting the guidance you need, and everybody is finding the tax deductions that are available to them. And truckers have a few things that are specific towards them, that like the fuel credits and per diems when they are an over-the-road trucker and away from home so much. So we want to make sure that you're getting the guidance that you need to get all the tax deductions possible out there. Another question that came in: does our company cover only truckers, and do we help other 1099 people? I have been in the industry of taxes now for almost close to 40 years. Our business has been around helping taxpayers everywhere. Trucker Tax Tools, the company out here, they represent truckers. I actually go to OOIDA, which is Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association, and speak to a great group of people at their seminar every year of Truck to Success. If you're new to getting into trucking and being an owner operator, you can go to ooida.com and look up Truck to Success to see when that seminar is, which is coming up here just next week. So it's going to be a great program. But I've helped small businesses nationwide on their taxes for many, many years, not just truckers, but other people that are 1099 income out there. Some of the questions that we get that have come in, and I love this question from one of the truckers that are watching here, he chose not to give his name. I guess he was afraid that this question would get him audited. Is a dog expense tax deductible? We kind of laugh about it, but yes, it can be. If your dog is acting as a security dog for your truck, this is considered then a guard dog. So all the expenses for that dog are tax deductible. That includes your food, your vet bills, supplies, items for the truck, to keep your dog safe. So yes, it is tax deductible. Another question that we got, I think this was from Bill out in, let's see, where are you at? Virginia. Hey, do you take care of corporate taxes as well? Yes, we do. We file those 1120s or 1120Ss. If you happen to be a partnership, we can also do the 1065 partnership return. So yes, we do. We help guide you. One of the things that you got to look for in a tax preparer, if you're going to be in business, is going to be somebody that knows the rules and regulations and what's best for you. So, when you're sitting out there and saying, hey, does somebody take care of corporate taxes? Corporate taxes, like I said, could be an 1120, could be 1120S, but we also got to make sure that what's the reason that you have your business set up as a corporation? Should it be an S Corp? Should it be a C Corp? If you're an LLC, the same thing goes. You're going to want to look at in your business what's going to benefit me from a tax standpoint or even a legal standpoint. Now, we're not lawyers, never wanted to be a lawyer. We don't charge legal fees. I do have tax attorneys that help in representation for our clients when needed. But everybody here on staff is an enrolled agent or CPA. And, we give you the tax guidance that you need for your company. So you may be a single member LLC. Maybe you need to be recognized as an S Corp to reduce self-employment taxes. But then you've got to have what the IRS calls a reasonable salary, and you got to be on payroll. So maybe you set up yourself as a Inc., John Doe Inc. Whatever the business may be, when you set yourself up as an INC, did you make the election to be an S Corp, or are you going to be just charged corporate tax and have double taxation? Double taxation is going to be where you pay tax on the profits, and then you pay tax when you distribute it as a distribution. So there's many things that we've got to look at in aspects of taxes. And you bring up something great for next week's show, is talking about corporate taxes and how you should structure your business to get you the best tax deductions. And I think that'd be the great program that we get next week here on our radio program. Question came in: is our company an accounting company or legal? We are a tax firm. We work with you to reduce your taxes. And that's what our guidance is. Taxation Solutions Tax Relief gets you the tax relief out there for businesses and personal when you owe them IRS money or going through an audit or you need representation. TruckerTaxTools.com is a business that's set up to work with truckers. And you see the commercial that we have. You don't want to keep track of all this bookkeeping stuff and everything else. We're a bookkeeping firm. We're a tax firm. We have the best and the brightest tax people out here, and the best and brightest bookkeeping people out here that know to find every tax deduction for your company. Now, we do this for truckers, and 90% of our business is for truckers. The other 10% is for other people that are in business and self-employed. We can help you across the board, no matter where you are in the country. And that's kind of the reason why we do this program. And we do this talking to people to get more information out there. We got another question that came in, and you were talking about estimated taxes. What happens if I did not pay my quarterly estimated taxes? Well, if you fail to pay your quarterly estimated taxes, you could be subject to tax liabilities, penalties, and interest charges from the IRS. Now, what the IRS does is they will send you a penalty for not paying your quarterly taxes correctly with interest based on how they see it. Now, there's forms we can file, 2210, that can possibly get rid of some of those penalties depending on how you earn your income. May get rid of penalties because, let's say you earn most of your income later in the year, you're not really required to pay even quarterly estimates. You can pay it as how you earn your income as well. And maybe you weren't really required to pay those estimates in based on the prior year tax returns, and we can go through and calculate that and get those penalties reduced and interest reduced as well. But you got to remember, if you were required, then those penalties. Plus, if you don't make estimated tax payments that are required, it becomes sometimes really hard to make that huge tax payment come April 15th, because when tax deadline is there, that isn't just hey, I file an extension, I can pay later. No, April 15th is actually the deadline to make sure you've paid in 100% of the tax or more, so that the IRS doesn't hit you for the failure to pay and interest on top of that, which can become very costly. So estimated tax payments become very, very important to you as a taxpayer. Now, we had somebody ask us, what are the quarterly taxes and who has to pay them and when are they due? If you go back and listen to this podcast, we covered a little bit about estimated taxes, and we'll go a little bit more in depth in coming podcasts. But if you had taxes due for 2023, you're most likely going to have estimated taxes that are going to be due. So, we can go back and show you how to calculate those. We'll also make it a very in-depth podcast here in the future. One of the questions came in real quick here. Can semi-truck drivers deduct mileage? No. I've seen preparers do it. Deduct mileage, deduct depreciation. No, you're not allowed to deduct mileage as you would for other professional vehicles that are being used, or your personal vehicle being used. However, you can deduct all actual expenses you incur for the vehicle, and you're going to itemize all those expenses, including fuel, maintenance, repairs, depreciation, interest on the car loan or the truck loan, insurance, and more. So you're going to want to make sure that you are itemizing all that for your semi-truck. Now, your personal vehicle, we want to make sure you're keeping track of business mileage that you use your personal vehicle with. So when you're running to the store to pick up supplies, or you're running to the parts to get parts for your truck, those things become deductible. Going from your house to where your truck is parked to go get your first load and everything, that becomes commute. That's not going to be deductible on your personal vehicle. But just remember, if you're going out to eat with somebody, then you can go through and do that. And so you're going to want to keep a detailed mileage log for your mileage on your personal. Now, we do tell our truck drivers to keep track of days on the road. Sometimes it's used through what we call, it's in the industry as an ELD, electronic log. It logs the days and miles on the road, and they use that instead of manual logbooks that they used to use back in the day. So we ask the truckers to keep track of days on the road for per diems as well, but they're not going to be using that in their personal vehicle. Now, what want to make sure you do is here in the last minute, connect with us at Facebook. You can go to taxtalk4u.com, connect with us there, listen to this show and podcasts and everything you may have missed, because we kind of cover things really quick, and you might need more information and everything. So if you need more information, shoot us an email through the station or through taxtalk4u.com. You can also connect with Taxation Solutions on the Facebook page. Look up Taxation Solutions Tax Relief, and you'll be able to watch and see us there. Make sure you're tuning in every Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on W4CY Radio. We look forward to bringing you information next week about company taxes, corporate taxes, and maybe corporate tax relief. Hey, until then, have a great week. God bless and stay safe. Thank you for listening.
Are you an individual or business that wants to understand taxes and how they affect you? Are you looking for specific tax advice for self-employed, business owners, and truckers? Are you behind on taxes and your bookkeeping? Are you dealing with the IRS and ready to have some relief? Then you need Tax Talk for You, hosted by tax and trucker expert Barry G. Fowler, EA. Tune in 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Monday right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Don't forget to check this and past episodes at taxtalk4u.com. See you next week at W4CY.com.